The story begins in the late 1700s. The Ohio River Valley was a frontier, a place of conflict between settlers pushing westward and the Shawnee tribe, who had called the land home for generations. I'm dyslexic. One of the most respected Shawnee leaders was Chief Cornstalk, a warrior and a strategist. In 1774, he had led his people into the bloody Battle of Point Pleasant, where hundreds of lives were lost. In the years that followed, Cornstalk became a figure of diplomacy, seeking peace with the colonial forces even as tensions grew. But peace was fragile. In 1777, Cornstalk traveled to Fort Randolph in Point Pleasant to warn the American garrison that his people might be forced into war by the British. He came in good faith. Instead, he and his companions were taken hostage. Days later, after a skirmish outside the fort left a soldier dead. Enraged militiamen stormed Cornstalk's quarters. They shot him where he stood. As the Shawnee chief lay dying, he uttered this curse. I was the borderman's friend. Many times I have saved him and his people from harm. I never warred with you, but only to protect our wigwams and lands. I refuse to join your pale-faced enemies with the redcoats. I came to the fort as your friend, and you murdered me. You have murdered by my side my young son. For this, may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon this land. May it even be blighted in its hopes. May the strength of its people be paralyzed by the stain of our blood. He breathed his last to the indifference of the Americans. For decades, the curse lingered as little more than a local tale, but then came the 20th century and the sightings.
Nothing notable happened until 200 years later. It's just past midnight, November 15th, 1966. Two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette, are driving down a lonely back road outside Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Their headlights cut through the dark as they pass the old TNT plant, a crumbling remnant of the Second World War. For them, it's a late-night drive. For some, merrymaking, indulging in the pleasantries of young love. They see something that looks like a dead animal on the side of the road, but don't think anything of it and keep driving. As they round the corner and their headlights pierce through the dark, they see something large standing in the road. Roger looks at his three friends curiously. Suddenly, two bright red lights appear at the top of the shadowy figure. Too close to the taillights of another car, and too far from the town to be lights of a building. They cautiously drive towards the object as the car creeps closer. They see it, a giant figure, taller than a man, and cloaked in massive gray wings. The feature turns its red gaze at the car. What the? Roger exclaims. The creature freezes. So do the four inside the car. And then, without warning, it moves. With a sudden bone-deep snap, the wings unfold, stretching wider than the car itself. It leaps into the air, and then rises above the tree line. The 57 Chevy lurches forward, tires spitting gravel. The couples are shouting over the roar of the engine, urging Roger to go faster, but it doesn't matter, because it's still there. The thing is following them, not like a bird, not flapping nor struggling. It glides, smooth, silent, effortless, keeping up with the car. Roger pushes the car to 100 miles an hour, but every time they glance upward, the creature is still there. For nearly 7 miles, the creature stalks them through the dark. Only once they finally reach the lights of Point Pleasant does it veer away, shallowed by the black sky. Shaken, pale, and breathless, the four friends go straight to the Mason County Sheriff's Office. They tell their story. A deputy even returns with them to the site, but there's nothing left. The sheriff grabs his radio to tell the dispatch, but nothing. Only static comes through the radio. No tracks and no proof were left, other than the deep scratches on the top of their car. These four teens are left with the memory of what they saw, and the terror they just can't shake. The local paper would run a story the next day under the headline that seemed like half a joke, half like a warning. Couples see man-sized bird, creature, something. But what Roger and Linda Scarberry and the Millettes saw that night wasn't a bird. It wasn't something they could laugh off, and soon, dozens would claim the same. This was only the beginning of the Mothman.
Well, welcome everybody to this episode of the Watchmen podcast. This is episode 1. We're going to see how this goes, so bear with us. First time doing anything like this. I'm your host, Zach Upchurch, joined by my good friends, Ben Todd Hunter and Garrett Chambers. As always, say hi to the people.
Hey.
Crazy story, right? The Indian chief, he's just trying to warn the Americans about this British attack, and they misinterpret it. They try to arrest him. They get him, and I think 4 or 5 of his friends.
Yeah.
And then an unrelated skirmish outside where this American hunter is, I think he's just hunting, as hunters do, obviously. The Indians kill him, and then they take that very personally, and they shoot Chief Cornstalk. They murder him, and he puts this supposed curse on the area, but nothing really happens for 200 years. When we see the first story of these two couples driving out in their 57 Chevy to a remote area, and the Mothman, is standing in the middle of the road, and they almost hit the dang thing. Anyway, crazy. Don't you hate it when that happens?
That happened to me last Wednesday, and it was really just a interesting experience. Turns out it wasn't a Mothman.
It was just a moth.
It was just...
Yeah, so another story kind of related to this. On the same night, actually, a guy named Daryl Partridge hears a noise outside his house. He goes out to investigate. This guy's a hunter, right? So he brings his rifle, he brings his big dog. I think the dog's name was Bandit. And he walks out.
Good solid name.
And good solid name for a dog, right? Mm-hmm. And about 100 yards off, around the corner of his barn, he sees these two big red eyes. And this guy's a hunter. He grew up hunting. He knows what the nighttime glow of animal eyes look like. The green cat eyes or whatever. Mm-hmm. This isn't that. He has no idea what this is. It's not can't be a bobcat or anything. And so the dog, Bandit, runs after this thing. Never seen again. Howling in terror, the dog just starts, tail between his legs, that kind of thing. Partridge loves his dog, right? But he gets this sense of elemental terror. He will not go off that porch. He's struck by this terror. He leaves the dog. He's like, nope, I'm going to bed. So holding his shotgun under his pillow. And then the next day, he goes out and looks for the tracks of the dog, and they go out to the corner of the barn, and then the second they get to the corner of the barn, they're gone. Now, this is kind of just a weird story, but I want to point out what that dark object that looked like an animal on the side of the road that first night that the two couples saw. Is that the dog? That could be the dog.
That's a big dog.
No, not like the Mothman, but the dead creature that they see.
Oh,
they keep driving.
Actual.
Yeah, so the Mothman, took it. Mothman's got to eat, right? Mm-hmm. So the Mothman just picked the dog up, took him over, and then decided to scare the living hell out of these people, and that's that. Anyway, crazy story.
The red eyes is a common theme with the Mothman.
The red eyes, glowing red eyes is a really common theme, or just glowing in general. We see that with a lot of supernatural stuff. Like orbs. Orbs are really big. Skinwalker Ranch, there's a ton of orbs there.
Yeah.
LED lights.
LED lights, probably demonic.
Yeah. Make them green.
We're not going to lie to you here. We're not going to lie to you here.
Yeah, be warned.
Get rid of them.
And then the dang thing keeps up with the car. There's actually an interview I think it happened the next day with Roger, and he says he's going 100 miles an hour. And, the Mothman's just, keeping up, just chilling, and then it, scratches the trunk or whatever. That's just weird.
So, do we know what kind of car this dude's in? That he was going 100 miles an hour just down a
It's a 57
road?
Chevy.
Yeah.
Yeah, big block. Big block.
Okay, that's easy then.
Yeah. Just cruising in the black Chevy. Anyway, so the Mothman saga begins in November 1966, lasts for about 13 months. There's over 100 credible eyewitness accounts from all kinds of different people, doctors, lawyers, and it ends with the Silver Bridge collapse 13 months later. That's kind of the bookend. The first bookend is the story of the two couples, and then the second bookend is the story of the Silver Bridge collapse. Are they related? We don't know, but after the Silver Bridge collapse, the Mothman sightings significantly slowed down, a lot, and then eventually within the next couple months, they were just gone completely.
So it turns out that the Mothman was in his 57 Chevy, and he was going across the bridge, just going to work, and bridge collapsed. There we go.
I heard this.
Don't pick up Mothman hitchhikers.
Exactly. Yeah. If they have wings or glowing red eyes.
They are a lot heavier than they look.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we see the Men in Black who descend on Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Some of I think John Keel's book. That's what his book actually says is they descend, they cruise all up and down the back roads, random places that you would never expect government people to go. Yeah. So that's the first official sighting of the Mothman. There are a couple ones before that. I think there's one that's a National Guard guy who's on patrol at like the National Guard base or something. And when he sees this like big gray figure, and he goes and gets his buddy, and by the time he comes back with his buddy, it's gone. I forget when that was. That was a couple days before. And then supposedly November 12th, 4 or 5 people were digging a grave at night. You know, solid thing to do.
Like you do.
Yeah,
That
as
last
one
Wednesday
does.
too. That was another thing. Yeah.
Yep. When they see like this big dark creature come out of the tree line, and just start staring at them, and they're all like, "What is this giant spectral thing?" And then it just like takes off and flies over their heads and goes off. So that one, it's only found on, I think it's like the West Virginia State Commerce website or something. And it's also 79 miles south of Point Pleasant. So do with that what you will. I don't know if that's a real story. Yeah. So,
It could go either way.
it could go either way. Another interesting thing, the Mothman is like this massive creature, like 7 feet tall. And like the descriptions are pretty built. Like if you look at the actual statue of him, like the guy's jacked.
Yeah.
Now, the statue in Point Pleasant is probably not the most accurate representation of said Mothman. But how he could physically fly being 7 feet tall, because like if you think about birds, right? Like birds are not heavy. Birds are really light. Even like the big 5-foot wingspan eagles or whatever, they only weigh like 5-10 pounds.
Right.
Because they have like
ospreys.
Yeah.
Hollow bones.
They have hollow bones. So how this guy can actually like fly, being jacked, and also
not flapping his wings.
Yeah. So the crazy thing, not flapping his wings, is that people are like, the wings are just like there.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually use them. He just like hovers, and you're like, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just one thing we'll talk about later, like what we think Mothman actually is. And how this affects, him maybe actually being like an undiscovered animal or something.
Yeah.
And then there's Cornstalk. So Chief Cornflakes, or whatever his name is. What are you guys' thoughts on his involvement? Do you think this curse that he, supposedly placed on Point Pleasant, does that carry any weight, or is that just completely unrelated to some old guy who died?
I think it's easy. In folklore, we see this a lot, where something happens in a place, and then someone looks back through history, and they say, "Hey, let's try to find, the root cause of why this is happening," and they will grasp at anything they possibly can to link it, just because. I mean, it's in our nature. We don't understand something, we try to figure it out. Yeah, exactly. We look for patterns. We look for any kind of clues, any sort of like hidden messages. So I really feel like it's easy to start associating stuff with other stuff just kind of randomly. That maybe there's a little bit of a connection, maybe there's not. But I think that it's just kind of in our nature just to start linking stuff together. So I mean, I don't know. Reading what he said doesn't say anything about anything, like haunting the area or
no, it's kind of just a vague,
a
vague curse, being like, "Oh, you're gonna be cursed forever," but then like nothing happens.
Nothing, for hundreds of years after. So it's like,
Gur, what are your opinions?
Yeah, no, I think that represents what I think too.
Yeah.
It could be something that, if it's a demon, the demon latched onto that. Like, it'd be funny.
Yeah. So there's this old curse.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's reports of other monsters in the area.
Yeah.
I forget, to be honest, what they are, but there's all kinds of monsters, like Flatwoods Monster, similar things, like we see the Goat Man. I mean, even Bigfoot could be classified as like a cryptid type, quote unquote, thing. It's in the same category of could be a supernatural, could be just a cryptid, could be demonic, could be whatever, but it's definitely like, the kind of thing that we do this podcast about, and the stories that we read, and our goal is to tell the stories and also to give a fair, even opinion on what we think these are. Interestingly enough, paranormal things are often associated with like military sites. This being no exception, because the old TNT plant that Roger and Linda, and I forget the other couple of names. Anyway,
Millettes.
yeah, the Millettes, that they were going out to. It was a World War II munitions factory. Made bombs, TNT, pretty fancy. But it's a government site, and that's part of the speculation that, like, it could be an escaped government experiment or some, crap like that. So, yeah, it's often associated with military sites, and, like, we see Area 51,
Right.
nuclear...
That's definitely the big one.
Area 51, which we'll do an episode on in the future. Nuclear sites, it's often associated with, like, technology. And I wonder if, like, because, if this is demonic, or even just other things that we know for sure are demonic, like, they attach themselves to mysterious things like that. Like, a nuclear that has a lot of mystique and mystery surrounding it.
Right.
So, yeah, it's often associated with the military bases, that kind of thing. And the government does nothing to help this. They egg on rumors. I actually heard one that the Mothman was a government experiment / like, bait. Because they were doing something, I think, so it's the middle of the Cold War, right? 1966. And, like, they were trying to move, like, uranium or something from the TNT factory. So, yeah. So they're like, well, we're just going to make, like, this giant distraction so people don't notice our literal trains of TNT and uranium going in and out of the place. Doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, I wouldn't put it past the government, but
I'm sorry, I just like that visual of there's just this big 7-foot Mothman flying across the building. They're like, they'll never notice our loud, obnoxious trains full of bombs coming from the building. Nobody looked down and was like, hey, wait a minute, wait a minute.
What are you guys shipping? Look at the thing. Look at the thing.
Well, and that's where I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's a plausible story.
No. That doesn't
Anyway.
make sense.
Yeah, ridiculous. But with that, we're going to go into our next story about a notable figure. Take us away, Ben. You want to cut for a minute?
Yep.
You were going to laugh about something. I don't know if maybe we should.
Oh, no, I was thinking about the neon signs pointing to the Mothman with the trains full of uranium. It's like, look up there, and it's just the trains going just right behind the neon signs are going in. Everybody was like, oh, you're right.
You idiot. You didn't see the train.
Oh, man.
You fell for my trap.
Yeah.
It's just... Anyway, yeah, what am I reading?
You're reading the John Keel story, right? Starts right there.
John Keel wasn't local. He was a journalist and author from New York, already fascinated with UFOs, strange phenomena, and the paranormal, an expert in the field. When he caught wind of the sightings in Point Pleasant, he packed his bags and went to see for himself. He arrived in town with a notebook, a camera, and an open mind. When he found what he found was more than just a creature. For months, Keel interviewed witnesses, young couples, housewives, farmers, even police officers. Their stories were remarkably consistent. A man-sized figure with glowing red eyes and enormous wings. Some said it chased their cars. Others claimed it appeared outside their windows, watching. Almost everyone spoke of a feeling they couldn't shake, a sense of terror, like the air itself had turned heavy. But as Keel dug deeper, the story twisted into something stranger. People told him of phone calls with voices that sounded mechanical, full of static, lights in the sky that danced and disappeared, men in dark suits who arrived in town, asking questions, warning witnesses to stay silent. The more Keel wrote, the more the story shifted, from a simple monster sighting to a web of paranormal activity that seemed to center on Point Pleasant, and in the middle of it all was the Mothman. Keel began to believe the creature wasn't just an animal. He thought it might be a harbinger.
Harbinger.
I can't pronounce it. He thought it
Harbinger.
I get wrapped up on there's a mic in front of me and my brain leaves. He thought it... Anyway, he thought it might be a harbinger, an omen of some coming catastrophe. In fact, just weeks before December 1967, Keel claimed he received strange messages warning that a great disaster was about to strike Point Pleasant. He didn't know what it meant until the night The Silver Bridge collapsed onto the icy Ohio River, killing 46 people. To Keel, the connection was undeniable. The Mothman had appeared in the year leading up to the collapse. Witnesses swore they saw it perched on the bridge itself just days before the tragedy. I was thinking about how heavy this man must be to collapse a whole bridge. Anyway, Keel gathered it all: the sightings, the strange phone calls, the so-called Men in Black, the bridge disaster, and wove it into this book, The Mothman Prophecies. Published in 1975, it turned a local legend into a national mystery. It was no longer just Point Pleasant's story, it was the world's.
Another thing that we see is people's dreams of the event, of the bridge collapse itself, and also other sightings of the Mothman and nightmares and all these things. And the overall sense of dread is another common theme that we see in not just Mothman, but also all sorts of paranormal things, is the incapacitating feeling of dread. There's also some reporters that were in contact with John Keel. We hear about Mary. She had a nightmare, people drowning in the river, and Christmas packages floating up. So John Keel wrote the book called The Mothman Prophecies, which we'll reference a lot in this episode.
Yeah, so crazy. I don't think I have this in here, but I think it was it was one of the sightings. Like John Keel and then Mary hire this local reporter. They like go out to, I think, the TNT area, and then they like go out with this whole group or whatever, and then the other people leave. Mary Hire leaves. They go back into town, and he actually drives back out to the TNT area, and he's like, hanging around there, and he's driving, and he hits this wall of like crazy dread, like elemental sense of terror, and then he like keeps driving, and 100 yards later it goes away, and he's like, well, that was weird. So okay, total Chad right here. The guy gets out of his car and he like walks towards the area of terror, like the fear zone or whatever it is.
Right, you'd never hear that.
Yeah, like bro is actually crazy, and so he's walking towards this, and like he ends up walking into the fear zone, quote unquote.
Right.
And just like this crazy sense of terror, and he knows the area. Like there's nothing that should be there to to actually cause this sense of fear. So he gets to the other side, finally gets out of the fear zone, and then he's like, "Whoa, that was crazy," and so he's like, my car's on the other side of that. I have to like get back in there. And he actually just considered like spending the night there and just waiting for the sun to rise and then go back. But he ended up like stealing himself and actually going back to his car and then heading back into Point Pleasant. Anyway.
That's always, at least that seems to always be the case, is that you get the bubble of dread, and all the people are always cognizant of the fact that it doesn't make sense that they're so fearful in this weird place.
Wait, I'm sorry. He was going to spend the night outside of his car, and he had to bring himself to get back into his car?
No. So, like, his car's here, right?
Okay.
This is the fear zone. He got out of the car, walked across the fear zone, and then the fear zone is, like, between him and the car.
I see. So he had to walk back through.
And he, like, didn't know the area well enough to, like, try and walk
just
around
walk
the fear
it.
zone or whatever.
Okay.
So he was just like, well, that sucks. Maybe I'll just, like, spend the night here. But then he ended up just, like, getting his courage up and walking back through. Yeah, but like no, like you said, Gur, like terror is or elemental sense of fear way beyond what's proportionate to the experience. Is a through theme in these, potentially supernatural things. So what do we think of this? Is this like a mass hysteria, or like from an actual perspective of objectivity?
Mm-hmm. No, I find that hard to believe with the amount of people that are talking to John Keel and having all the other stories that they report individually. It's really hard to believe that it's all mass hysteria. I would believe if it is some sort of hoax, that's definitely possible.
A really well done hoax.
A really well done one, but it is possible. But there's no way that this was all just absolutely nothing and people were making it up.
Well, and the crazy thing is, so John Keel, he was really well known in like the supernatural, I don't, exploration of the supernatural, I guess you would call it. So he interviewed these people, and then he didn't like publish it until almost 2 years later. Some of them. So other people, like basically, so people couldn't jump on the bandwagon of like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, so and so said that. Yeah. So a lot of people like didn't know who he was talking to.
That's an interesting point in and of itself, because if he had this information and he had this research done, but he didn't publish it until 2 years later, and other people saw it within those 2 years, which sounds like they did, we know that it's not just, they read a scary book and they're like, oh, that's cool, I live close to where that book was, and then, obviously, then you see a dark corner and you're like, oh, there he is, and I saw him, or, you look up in the sky one night and you're like, oh, there it is.
You get the blinking red lights of the airplane.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, John Keel was very professional about his work that way. There was another reporter, I forget his name, that was he's done things that have been, regarding the Mothman that have been confirmed as just straight up not true. Like, the other guy was a hoax. He actually, he wrote a book that came out before John Keel's book. I think his book came out in 1970, and talked about some other stuff. I forget his name.
Is John Keel still alive?
I don't know. That's an interesting. Let's look it up.
We'll have to get him on the podcast.
I was thinking the same thing. Can we bring him here and be like, can you tell us about what it was like?
No, he died in 2009.
Oh man,
darn.
Sad. I mean, it's the spirit of John Keel. No, I'm not gonna say that. That would be bad. Inviting the spirit in. Definitely not what we want to do from a Christian perspective here. We should not.
Note to all you at home.
Yeah.
What not to do.
Well, and that's we'll see. Not in our next story, but we'll go into it later. Like with the Men in Black or whatever. They have to be invited in, and we see. With that,
black-eyed children, huh?
Yeah, the black-eyed kids. Because, and I, personally at least, and you guys can weigh in on this too, but I think because when Christ rose, he proclaimed victory over the spirits, and now, all throughout his ministry, we see if you have the Holy Spirit, you can't have demons. You can't have the Holy Spirit and demons living inside you at the same time. So the spirits now have no power just to take reign over us, just however they will. So they have to be invited into our house or whatever. They can't just barge in, and obviously they can't possess us in a way that we think of possession as, but specifically with things like our house, because we do see the home or any in cars. We see that with the black-eyed kids. They can't just show up in your car. You have to open the door for them. And with the Men in Black, a lot of them will show up just asking for a glass of water, and that's their end. Some guy shows up on your door asking for a glass of water, you'd be like, okay, that's a little weird, but I mean, just water.
Right.
But that's their way of getting in.
Speaking of the Men in Black, there was another story 12 days before Roger and Linda Scarberry heard their incident with the car. On November 12th, 1966, a creepy thing about this involves a guy, as we saw the other connection to...
Hold on.
Yeah.
November 12th. Wasn't that the day
that was the day before.
No, that was the day that those 4 people were digging the grave.
Oh, yeah.
Supposedly. Yeah, okay, that's totally random, but little coincidence there. Yeah, that's funny. I didn't notice that before. Anyway, go on.
Right, okay. was it Derenberger? I thought it was pronounced something else.
I think it's Derenberger. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's Derenberger.
Okay.
I like Woody Danger.
We just call him Woody Danger,
or
we just call him Woody. I mean, kind of a Chad name right there, Woody.
True.
Yeah.
Woodrow Derenberger, or Woody Danger. A sewing machine salesman from Mineral Wells, West Virginia, was driving home after a long day's work on Interstate 77. The night is quiet, the road is empty. Until it isn't. As Widow is driving down the mostly deserted highway, he sees a car, potentially a black Cadillac, pass him at high rate of speed. Chalking up as some teenage idiots, he doesn't think much of it. Until a few seconds later, when a large metallic craft whizzes by his truck, apparently in pursuit of the speeding car. The craft looked almost cylindrical, about 9 feet in diameter. The craft soon slowed to a stop, though, forcing Woody to pull over, he tries to drive around it. But it is now blocking the whole roadway. The object hovered silently about 6 inches above the ground when its door opened. Woody Derenberger gaped in amazement at the thing. It wasn't an automobile, but it was shaped like an old-fashioned kerosene lamp chimney, flaring at both ends, narrowing down to the small neck, and then enlarging in a great bulge in the center. It was charcoal gray. He slammed on his brakes as the object turned sideways, blocking the road, stopping only 8 or 10 feet from it. The door slid open on the side, and a man stepped out. I didn't hear an audible voice, Woody said later. I just had a feeling, like I knew what this man was thinking. He wanted me to roll down my window. The stranger was about 5'10", with long, dark hair combed straight back. His skin was heavily tanned. Grinning broadly, his arms crossed, and his hands tucked under his armpits. He walked to the panel truck. He was wearing a dark topcoat. Underneath it, Woody could see some kind of garment that made of glistening greenish material, almost metallic in appearance. "Do not be afraid," the grinning man did not speak aloud. Woody sensed the words. "We mean you no harm. I come from a country much less powerful than yours." He asked for Woody's name. Woody told him. "My name is Cold. I sleep, breathe, and bleed, even as you do." Mr. Cold nodded towards the lights of Parkinsburg in the distance and asked what kind of place it was. Woody tried to explain it was the Center for Business and Homes, a city in his world. Cold explained such places were called gatherings. While this telepathic conversation was taking place, the chimney-shaped object ascended and hovered some 40-50 feet above the road. Other cars came along the road and passed him. Cold told Woody to report the encounter to the authorities, promising to come forward at a later date to confirm it. After a few minutes of aimless generalities, Cold announced he would meet Woody again soon. The object descended, the door opened, Cold entered back in, and it rose quickly and silently into the night. When he got home, Derenberger was in a very distraught state. His wife urged him to call the Parkersburg police. They seemed to accept his story without question, and asked him if he needed a doctor. The next day, he was questioned at length by the city and state police. The story appeared in the local press and on radio and television. People who had driven that same route the night before came forward to confirm that they had seen the man speaking to the driver of the panel truck stopped on the highway. Mrs. Frank Huggins and her 2 children had reportedly stopped their own car and watched the object soar low over the highway minutes after Woody watched it depart. Another young man said the object had frightened him out of his wits when it hovered over his car and flashed a powerful blinding light on him. Woody Derenberger became a super celebrity. Crowds of people gathered at his farm every night, hoping to glimpse a spaceship. His phone rang day and night. He switched to an unlisted number, but within a short time, the calls began again. Crank calls threatening him if he didn't shut up, calls that consisted of nothing except eerie electronic sounds and code-like beeps. Derenberger's story might have ended as just another UFO tale, except that it didn't. In the weeks that followed, injured Cold visited him again. Sometimes telepathically, sometimes in person. Cold told him he came from the planet called Lanalus, where people lived free of war and hatred. Other residents of the area claimed to see similar smiling figures around this time.
Injured Cold's arrival coincided almost exactly with the first Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant. As the townsfolk reported glowing eyes in the sky, winged creatures in the woods, and unmarked black cars in their streets, others spoke of the grinning man, a being who seemed human but not quite. So, for reference, I just pulled up a picture of what the kerosene lamp thing looks like. That's the shape. We'll put this up on screen.
Mm-hmm.
That's the shape. Supposedly cylindrical-ish object.
Yeah.
It's not in that story, but supposedly like the door made like a car door sound, like just a normal car door.
That's really funny.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Look, I drive a car like you do. See?
Yeah.
We're the same.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me.
I swear I'm just smiling. Well, and apparently he also had his hands just tucked under his armpits or whatever. Yeah. Like
no,
chicken. no, but like he had his arms
like,
crossed.
"Hi, fellow man. Would you like to go get coffee with me?"
You like skateboards?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was like, and it's just things like this. It's not like there's nothing wrong about him. It's just off. You know what I mean? Like, why would he be smiling? And we see this a lot with the Men in Black, which we'll get into shortly. They're not normal. They have things like weird shoes or weird skin or like they don't know how to dress properly.
Yeah.
Right, Ben? They're very pale.
Okay. Hang on. I was gonna say someone who has weird shoes, don't be nice to him. but
Okay. Anybody with like platform, we see like thick-soled shoes. So anybody with thick-soled shoes, not sick-soled shoes, but thick-soled shoes, treat them as Men in Black. They're aliens and they're demons.
And
do not have eye contact.
Yeah, and guys, don't be scared to measure people's souls.
Yeah.
As you go through your day, if you see someone and they say hi to you, take out a ruler, bend down, and just measure the sole of their shoes.
Make sure it's not too big.
If it's anything more than an inch, like heels are fine, but anything more under like your toes, anything more like than an inch, then
probably
walk the other way.
Yeah.
Well, run the other way.
And get into your car and do not show them your car door sounds, because apparently they have cars too and they make the same door sounds.
Yeah.
Nothing else is the same.
They kind of like it. It's weird.
Yeah. It attracts them. Don't open and close the door a bunch of times.
Well, and I think a through theme. Hang on, I totally just lost my train of thought. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, that's what it was. Another theme we see, another theory we see, and I've heard before, is like if these are supernatural apparitions or whatever, they're just showing, basically they're showing the person what they can actually handle, right?
Yeah.
Like, the green alien isn't gonna, with the little eyes up here, he's not gonna like walk out of this craft. But like, the sewing machine salesman, he's a normal guy. Like, it's a little bit weird. Like, obviously there's stuff that's not normal about it, and that's the creepy thing. But they keep it similar enough to where it's believable. Like, if he was like, yeah, this flying craft passed me, and then, Shrek came out. That would that would be a little weird, and people would probably be like, "Oh no, you're on meth." That's different. But because it's like a normal human guy, like 5'10", black hair, you probably wouldn't be able to pick him out of a crowd. And then like the car door sounds like is a normal guy from all accounts, like Christian guy, had 2 kids, married. He has no reason to really make this up. No. So we see...
He became a celebrity, but I don't think he intended that or
No, definitely. It. Well, and there's actually an interview with him that I can try and link in the show notes. But the reporter asked him, like, what do you think about UFOs? And he goes, well, 2 days ago, I would have said that guy was just a nut. But now, I'm not so sure. Especially that being said, from that interview directly from him, it's just weird.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really about him that's unbelievable. Like, he seems like a pretty normal guy, like a sewing machine salesman, driving back at night. And I will say, after I listened to my first podcast on this, I was a little bit terrified to drive alone anywhere at night down, like, country roads. Just like, okay, we're going to go fast so we can get out of here as soon as possible, because... never know when, like, a cylindrical object might crash in front of you and cause you to drive off the road.
Or Mothman just takes you right out of your car.
Mothman just, like, dips in front of you and be like, that's going to be hard to explain on insurance.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You would know.
I would know. Yeah. I didn't hit a Mothman. I hit Mooseman. But,
close enough.
Same difference, basically.
Yeah.
And then after that, so Injured Cold, he tells Darren Berger, like, hey, I'll be back when he leaves. And apparently he comes back 5 or 6 more times. Supposedly there's a case of Darren Berger having the flu or something, and Cold, like, brings him medicine or something. Like, okay, that's weird.
Yeah. And then there was later have other Men in Black coming to him and telling him to stop talking to Cold.
Yeah. And then obviously he doesn't, but yeah.
While Mothman and Injured Cold attracted all the publicity and turned everyone's eyes to the deep skies of night, the strange ones began to arrive in West Virginia. They trooped down from the hills, along the muddy back roads, up from the winding hollers, like an army of guys. This is straight from the book. This isn't us. He puts an analogy. He goes
it's a funky one.
Like an army of leprechauns seeking impoverished.
He can't even do it.
I'm gonna use this in just everyday language. I'm gonna see someone and be like, you know what you remind me of? You remind me of an army of leprechauns seeking impoverished shoemakers. It was an open season on the human race, and so the ancient procession of the damned marched once more. A doctor and his wife, driving along a country road in the snowstorm, saw a huge, caped figure of a man struggling through the snow. So they stopped to give him a ride. He vanished. There is nothing but whirling snowflakes. The night where he had stood.
That's kind of just weird, though. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The
They're just
fact
like-
that you can see someone and it vanishes.
yeah, well, and
Yeah.
that's like, we don't know if this is one of the men in black, or he's a man in black or whatever, but just weird. And we see a lot of like just disappearing, like just randomly disappearing. Like the car was there, that's now just gone. There's another story.
The
I
dog.
don't remember if it's from this part in the book.
The dog just gets killed.
Well,
Well, no, but he doesn't disappear because they never
Yeah.
see him again. The tracks vanish. Remember, by the corner of the barn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Let me look something real quick. I think.
Bro got yoinked by the Mothman.
Yeah, bro. By the Mothman.
what are you looking for?
It was in the Christensen family story. He drives a '63 black Cadillac,
Oh.
and this isn't in the story. We'll read this shortly. But I don't remember if it was that story or another story where the guy got in a car and they actually got the license plate. And so they sent it to a friend in like the police department, and they're like, yeah, that license plate does not exist in the state of West Virginia.
Huh.
Like, you know, the deception or whatever it is being run is actually so complete that they have fake license plates that don't even work. Anyway, go ahead, Ben.
Black, luminous. It was a great start to a sentence, guys.
I'm gonna make like a whole thing of all of our outtakes.
There you go. That'll be longer than the actual podcast.
I'll just send it to you at the end. Like this is, you can just listen to 5 minutes of us dying.
Black limousines halted in front of the hill homes and deeply tanned census takers inquired about the number of children living with families. Always the children. In several instances, the occupants of the big black cars merely asked for a glass of water. The old fairy trick taken up from the Middle Ages and dusted off. A blonde woman in her 30s, well-groomed with a soft southern accent, visited people in Ohio and West Virginia whom I had interviewed. She introduced herself as John Keel's secretary, thus winning instant admission. The clipboard she carried held a complicated form filled with personal questions about the witness's health income, the type of cars they owned, their general family background, and some fairly sophisticated questions about their UFO sightings. Not the type of questions a run-of-the-mill UFO buff would ask.
I have no secretary, said John Keel. I didn't learn about this woman until months later, when one of my friends in Ohio wrote to me and happened to mention it. As I told your secretary when she was there, then I checked and found out she had visited many people, most of whom I had never mentioned in print. How had she located them?
And that's just weird, right?
Yeah.
Like what we were talking about earlier, like how he waits for like a whole 2 years or whatever to mention these people. Like, nobody else knows. And we
No.
don't know, like, this doesn't necessarily seem like a Men in Black case. Obviously, because most of the Men in Black are just that, men.
Mhm.
This is not. So we don't know if this is someone who's just, like, piggybacking off of John Keel's...
Maybe she's following him, stalking him, or...
Yeah, just someone piggybacking off of John Keel's name. We don't know.
But imagine like writing a book, like you love what you do, you do your job, you know, you're investigating this big, you know, may or may not be paranormal case, and then like 2 years go by and you're like, I have a secretary? Since when?
Yeah, well, and that's the crazy thing is, like, these people just, like, assumed, like, he had a secretary. And then does it say... Yeah, months later, like, this guy's like, oh, yeah, by the way, like, mentions in passing, like, oh, I told your secretary when she was here, but I'll tell you, too, just in case.
Right.
And John Keel's like, say what now?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a secretary.
That's gonna be a little disconcerting, too. What else does she know?
Well, yeah, and that's the
Exactly,
thing, like, because they used John Keel as an in, or she used John Keel as an in, like,
Right.
because the people trusted John Keel, they knew, obviously, a very well-known name,
Mm-hmm.
and they realize, like, oh, John Keel's secretary, she got to be trustworthy. So, like,
Yeah.
like, who does she work for? Does she work for the government? And what kind of information did she get that's not, wasn't supposed to be gotten by whoever she was working for? Because obviously she's not working alone.
No.
She has to be working for somebody. But.
Well, again, she could be working alone, but there's not really any point to it. It doesn't make sense why she would, besides just being some sort of criminal.
Maybe she was a podcaster. She was like, you know what? I'm going to beat him to it.
There you go.
The original Mothman podcast. Anyway, go on.
Right. There were other weird types on the loose. In early December, one of them tried to waylay Mrs. Priscilla Bennett, one of the ladies who had frightening meetings with Mothman in the TNT area on November 16th. She and her small daughter, Tina, were driving along a deserted back road outside of Point Pleasant when she became aware of a red Ford Galaxy following her. It was driven by a large man, a stranger, she said, who appeared to be wearing a very bushy fright wig. She slowed down, expecting the vehicle would pass. Instead, it tried to force her off the road. She accelerated, and the other car raced around her, dropped down the road, and disappeared around a bend. When she circled the bend, she was alarmed to find that the Ford was now parked crossways on the narrow dirt road, blocking it. Badly frightened, she warned her daughter to hold on and jammed the gas pedal to the floor. The other driver, seeing that she didn't mean to stop, pulled over hastily and let her pass. She had never seen the man before, and she never saw him again. Molestations of this sort were rare, virtually non-existent in Point Pleasant before Mothman arrived. Mrs. Mary Heyer entertained the first of her long string of peculiar visitors early in January 1967. She was working late in her office opposite the county courthouse when her door opened and a very small man entered. He was about 4 foot 6 inches tall. She told me in a phone call soon afterward, although it was about 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside, he was wearing nothing but a short-sleeved blue shirt and blue trousers, of thin-looking material. His eyes were dark and deep set, and were covered with thick lensed glasses. He was wearing odd shoes with very thick soles, which probably added an inch or two to his height. Speaking in the low, halting voice, he asked for directions to Welch, West Virginia, a town in the southeastern tip of the state. She thought at first that he had some kind of speech impediment. His black hair was long and cut squarely, like a bull haircut, and his eyes remained fixed on her in an unflinching, hypnotic way. He kept getting closer and closer, she reported, his funny eyes staring at me almost hypnotically. He told her in a long-winded, disjointed story about his truck breaking down in Detroit, Michigan. He had hitchhiked all the way from Detroit as he talked, and he inched closer and closer to her, and she became frightened, thinking she had some kind of nut on her hands. She pulled back from the desk and ran back into the room where her newspaper circulation manager was working on the telephone campaign. He joined her, and they spoke together to the little man. He seemed to know more about West Virginia than we did, she declared. At one point the telephone rang, and while she was speaking on it, the little man picked up a ballpoint pen from her desk and examined it with amazement, as if he had never seen a pen before. "You can have that if you want it," she offered. He responded with a loud, peculiar laugh, a kind of cackle. Then he ran out into the night and disappeared around a corner. The next day, Mrs. Heyer checked with the sheriff's office to find out if there was any mentally deficient person on the loose. The answer was negative.
This is just like savage. Yeah, her first her first thought is like, oh, what if bro's autistic?
You got some sort of midget.
Yeah, autistic midget.
It's the leprechauns. Look at the shoemakers, bro.
Yeah,
He's running around. He's like, I need a ballpoint pen. That will help me find the shoemakers.
With the Irish accent too.
yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. And what did it say? Like he was dressed ill for the weather or something?
Yeah, blue short sleeved shirt and blue trousers.
Yeah, which is just the funny appearance. Yeah.
And what's in Welch in West Virginia? Like, why do you want to go there?
I don't know if there's any significance behind Welch, West Virginia. And then he kept coming closer. Like, what kind of creepy midget is this? Oh yeah, and then the pen, the bale-pointed pen. Yeah, the ballpoint pen. He's so fascinated by it. And she's like, do you want to keep it? And then he just laughs and runs off. What kind of response is
My
that?
life is complete.
Yeah, I have now found the ballpoint pen.
All I can think of is Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back, where he grabs his stick and he's beating R2-D2 with the fish finger.
It's like my stick.
Yeah.
My pen.
Yeah.
Stop it now.
So I'm gonna read one of the more notable Men in Black stories, the one where we have probably the most detail out of any of them. On the afternoon of January 9th, 1967, Edward Christensen and his family returned to their new home in Wildwood, New Jersey, after a trip in Florida. They had just moved into the new house, some distance from the place where they lived at the time of their November UFO sighting. Neither their address nor their phone number was listed in the then current phone book. They entered the house by the back door. The front door was still heavily bolted and locked as the way they had left it when they had gone to Florida. At 5:30 p.m., there was a knock on the front door. Mrs. Arlene Christensen was in the kitchen preparing dinner. "Check and see what it is," she told her 17-year-old daughter, Connie. "If it's a salesman, don't answer." Connie took a peek and reported back, "It's the strangest-looking man I've ever seen." Miss Christensen went to the door, unbolted, and unlatched it. It was growing dark and was bitter cold outside. There was no car in view, and this seemed peculiar because the Christensen home was removed from other houses in a rather isolated spot. A tall man stood on the doorstep. "Does Edward Christensen live here?" he asked. Arlene admitted he did. "I'm from the Missing Heirs Bureau," the man continued. "Mr. Christensen may have inherited a great deal of money. May I come in?" It was an approach that was hard to resist. She stepped back and invited him in, calling out to her husband. Now Edward Christensen is 6 feet 2 inches tall and heavy set. The stranger towered over him and must have been at least 6 feet 6 inches tall. He was also enormously broad and might have weighed at least 300 pounds. He wore a fur-style Russian hat with a black visor on it and a very long black coat that seemed to be made out of thin material, too thin for the cold weather. "This will only take 40 minutes, he said as he removed his hat and revealed an unusual head, large and round, while his face seemed angular and pointed. He had black hair, which was closely cropped to his head, as if his head had just been...
That's a really long time to walk in and be like, this will only take about 40 minutes. You're like, only? What do you mean?
Well, and like how he knows exactly how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
Like, no, this will take 40 minutes. No more, no less. Yeah, just weird. There was a perfectly round spot on the back of his head as if that area had been recently shaved. His nose and mouth seemed relatively normal, but his eyes were large, protruding, like thyroid eyes, and set wide apart. Don't ask. It was in the book. One eye appeared to have a cast, like a glass eye, and did not move in unison with its companion. Bro is like an absolute... Like, imagine if this guy came to your doorstep. Bro's like 6.5 freaking feet tall, 400 pounds. Like, one of his eyes moves, the other one's just, like, staring out into space. And he's wearing, like, weird clothes. Just looks funky. Yeah.
Thyroid eyes.
That's the only commentary we have.
Thyroid eyes. Edward Christensen told him at the outset that a mistake had been made, and he could not believe that anyone had left him any money. The man assured him that he might, indeed, be the Edward Christensen he was seeking, and in order to verify it, he would like to ask some questions. He removed his coat. There was a badge in his shirt pocket, which he quickly covered with his hand and removed, placing it in his coat pocket. It looked like a gold or brass badge, Connie told me later, but it wasn't an ordinary police badge or anything like that. We just got a glimpse of it, but it seemed to have a big K on it with a small X alongside, and there were some numbers or letters around the edge. It was obvious he didn't want us to see it. He was not wearing a suit jacket. Underneath the thin outer coat, he was wearing a short-sleeved shirt made of a Dacron-like material. His trousers were a dark material, gray or black, and they were a little too short. When he sat down, they rode high up his calves. He wore dark socks and dark shoes with unusually thick rubber soles. And there's the rubber soles again. Mm-hmm. Remember, anybody in public over an inch, they're Men in Black.
Turn the other way.
And the whole, like, badge thing was weird, too, because usually if it's anything, like, federal or even, like, police, they'll flash a badge at you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, they'll take it out and, like, they'll show you their credentials. You can, like, see their name and picture. So the fact that he just has just a badge on him and he takes it off is, like... Just weird.
Yeah, well, I was watching Transformers the other day. You know, the guy's like, "This is my do anything, get away with anything badge." Like, that's literally what the federal agents do. So yeah, like,
Yeah.
it is weird that he covers it over.
Complete random side story. My grandfather was an FBI agent. Of course, he's in California, and so whenever any like cop or anything pulled him over for like speeding, running red light or anything, he would just flash his FBI badge at him, and it got him out of like a bunch of tickets. So long story short, if you have one, use it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Show that to everybody.
Arlene and Connie were most fascinated by a strange feature on his leg. When he sat down, they could see a long, thick green wire attached to the inside of his leg. It came up out of his socks and disappeared under his trousers. At one point, it seemed to be indented into his leg and was covered by a large brown spot. Connie seemed to have studied him the most carefully and gave the best description. In many ways, this odd man shared the characteristics of Mary Hyer's tiny visitor of only a few days earlier. Mrs. Hyer said the little man had unusually pale skin, almost a sickly white. There we go, Ben. The Christiansens said their visitor had an unnatural pallor. They assumed he was sick. His speech was also strange, with a high, tinny voice that seemed especially peculiar coming from such a large man. He spoke in a dull, emotionless monotone, in clipped words and phrases, like a computer. Connie said that he sounded like if he were reciting everything from memory. Mrs. Hyer told me that her tiny visitor had spoken in a hard-to-understand sing-song manner, like a recording. Both men wore unusually thick rubber soles, both were ill-dressed for the weather, and both had eccentric haircuts. Small points, perhaps, but significant in these cases. After the man had introduced himself, none of the family could remember his name. They all said it was something common like Brown or Smith, but they did remember that his friends called him Tiny. The family dog, Gigi, snarled and barked at him. He spoke to the dog and calmed it. Kind of a funny name for this massive dude, right?
Yeah.
Hey, my friends call me Tiny.
Tall, yeah. And he talks in a really high voice.
Mm-hmm. When Tiny had seated himself, Mrs. Christensen told him that they were about to eat and asked him if he wanted to join. He replied that he was on a diet, but he would like a glass of water in about 10 minutes. He seemed to wheeze, they all noted, like a man with asthma, and he appeared to have difficulty breathing. Tiny produced a small notebook and a pen and assured the family that this was not any kind of confidence game. He was looking for an Edward Christensen who was due to inherit a large sum of money, and he would need information about Ed's past history to determine if he was the man. He then proceeded to ask a long series of questions. Did Ed have any scars or birthmarks? Ed said he had a scar on his back from an operation and an appendix scar. Tiny asked for every detail, the length, the width, the exact position of the scars. He also asked for a complete list of all the schools Ed had attended, and the number and type of auto vehicles the family owned. At one point, he asked the couple if they would be willing to fly to any point in the United States to collect the inheritance, explaining that they would have to be present when the will was read. Ed and Arlene agreed that they could make themselves available for such a trip. Ben, you want to read the rest?
Yeah, first, side note. Another word, like, when you're getting questions for anything, they're not looking for, like, what kind of scars do you have? Is it on your lower back or your upper back? What is the width of said scar? They're, like, any federal agencies are going to be looking for social security numbers. They're going to be looking for driver's license. They're going to be looking, I mean, if they're asking about cars, they're going to be asking about insurance reasons, stuff like that. Well, so the whole, like, do you have scars? Is, like, also, what is it with these people in cars? It's like they're...
Yeah, they always asked about the cars. Yeah. They often asked about children. Like, how many kids do you have? Which, I mean, seems like an innocent question. Like, how many kids do you have? But it's just weird. It's like, what does it have in common with a UFO sighting? Or
And it's not federal because, like, anything federal is not going to lead a conversation with, how many kids do you have? They're not...
They know.
Not... Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, where am I reading?
According to Connie.
Arlene and Connie, isn't it?
Other
on the wrong page?
You're on the wrong page, but I think...
Yeah.
Oh, that one? Wow. Yeah, apparently I was like 3 pages behind. According to Connie, Tiny's face gradually grew redder and redder as he talked, and after a few minutes, he turned to her and said, "May I have a glass of water now?" She fetched the water for him, and he took out a large yellow capsule, which he gulped down. He returned to normal after taking it. Tiny mentioned 3 specific names and asked Ed if he recognized any of them. He did not, and later he was able to remember only one of them, Roy Stevens. Connie said she thought another of the names was... I don't know
Taylor.
what the heck I just read. Connie said she thought another of the names was Taylor, but she wasn't sure. At this time, Ed did not know about Gwendolyn's Martino's, or Gwen Stevens, wrong numbers in December. Nor had Gwen heard about Tiny and the 3 names until I interviewed the family in late February of 1967. He had started out by discussing their UFO sighting in November. Then I began to ask my routine far-out questions. When I asked them if they had received any unusual visitors after their sighting, they looked at each other with a shock of recognition. I separated them and interviewed each member of the family individually. All their statements coincided exactly. Since 5 witnesses were involved, Mr. and Mrs. Christensen and their 3 children, all of above average intelligence and very observant, I regarded this as an outstanding MIB type Men in Black report. I did not publish it until 2 years later, withholding the details to preclude possible hoaxes. Tiny concluded his interview less than an hour after he arrived. It was probably precisely 40 minutes, just as he promised. He donned his hat and coat and told Ed he would not be notified by mail within 10 days.
He would be notified.
he would be notified, but I can read deep down inside. Mm-hmm. Arlene was in the kitchen when he left, and she decided she was going to watch him and see where he went. She stepped out of the kitchen door and stood in the dark, watching the big man as he walked towards the road. His shoes squished loudly as he walks. Why were they squishing?
This is rubber.
You don't like the wet sound in your rubber shoes? Your thick-soled rubber shoes with your wet socks. It's like squelch. Squelch.
All those little...
Yeah. Insert sound effect.
Yeah. That glass of water that he has.
He just
poured it in his shoes.
Yeah.
Is this not how humans drink?
It's all for the effect.
And that's what that wire was. It was like his drinking thing.
He just got
to pour it down his shoes.
Yeah. His shoes squished loudly as he walked, he noted. When he reached the road, he made a gesture with his hand, and a black 1963 Cadillac drove through the trees and pulled up. It was driving in the pitch dark, with its headlights out, so she couldn't see the driver. Tiny climbed into the car and drove away, its headlights still out. The next morning, Ed was alone in the house when the phone rang. A female voice explained she was calling about the missing air interview. We've located the Ed Christensen we were looking for in California, she explained. Ed said that he had felt sure he wasn't the right one. Thanked her and hung up. When he told his family about the call, they all dismissed the incident from their mind until my interview with them. The wire running up his leg is one feature I have been unable to fit into my research in the other MIB cases. It's because he needed to drink from it. We just figured it out.
Yeah, get with the program, John.
Took you years to figure this out? Come on, man. He's got a straw running up and he's going to drink the water out of his shoe. Adds flavor. It has never been repeated. It has never been repeated. Was Tiny wearing electric socks? Or was he a wired android operated by remote control?
Definitely the straw.
100%. Okay, I mean, come on, guys. Androids.
Anyone could see this.
Yeah, but the straw. That one's better. As for his badger, suspected that the K was really the Greek letter sigma, E, which has turned up repeatedly in other UFO cases.
Well, so hold on here.
Yeah, although, okay, I will say, the Greek letter sigma, even in capital, looks nothing
like a K?
Yeah, it's like a weird... Like, picture a W, but on its side, which is turned up repeatedly on other UFO cases and is often used by scientists to express the strange or unknown.
Yeah, this is like totally wild. Like
Yeah.
literally Men in Black
Yeah.
movie type shiz here.
Yeah.
He's like the straw thing. Like Brooke would be like, you know, in Men in Black, how they have like little alien controller inside the guy's
Yeah.
head. Like he's like this reptilian guy. Like reptilian
Like
confirmed
Mark
here.
Zuckerberg.
But like yeah, he takes this pill. Like he's over there dying. Like literally like a reptilian guy. You know,
Yeah.
right? Like he's out here suffocating. Then he takes this horse pill, and that's like what the only thing keeps him going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like an oxygen pill that he's like.
I can make it. Yeah, he's like barely making it through
Yeah.
this 40-minute interview, and then the Cadillac. I can't remember
Yeah.
if this was the one that had that they got the plate, and then the plate didn't exist.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Which were and they were driving with their lights off, which isn't
You-
that strange, except for the car pulls up, meaning that it was driving beforehand. Like it's not.
Yeah,
that
like
they
it
they
was
were ready.
waiting there.
Yeah.
They were ready for it.
Well, and I think at the beginning, like they look outside and they don't see a car.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, license plate. So car is there. We're not sure if it's the same story. Car is
Yeah.
there. They look outside the first time. There's a guy on the porch, massive. His name is Tiny, but he's absolutely huge.
but there's no car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's no car. He's just there. Then by the time he leaves, and all this weird stuff happens. By the time he leaves, there's a 1967 Cadillac.
Well, it's funny
Oh,
how
63,
like
yeah, yeah.
how
60, yeah.
precise that is. Like it was a 1963,
Which is interesting
Cadillac.
that they know the year too. I thought the same thing.
Well, it's also funny.
if
Like
they-
they're always Cadillacs, always a black Cadillac.
That's true.
Anyway,
Yeah, but lights are off. Somebody else in the car. He gets in, drives away, and then, I mean, I don't really, like, I can't really blame them for just dismissing it as like, oh, that was a weird little, Tuesday afternoon interview.
Yeah.
I mean, cool car. though.
Especially.
That is a sick car. Yeah, that's
Ooh.
that's a
Yeah.
lot of
I-
wood on that car.
That's a lot of motor on that car. Well, yeah, and that's the funny thing. Like the little side tangent he goes on in there about his interview. It's like, oh yeah, they totally like didn't connect this to the UFO sighting.
Yeah.
But like over all of his experience with the UFO sightings, he's learned to ask them these questions.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, do you have any strange visitors? And they're like, as a matter of fact, we actually did.
Yeah.
And yeah, like what you were saying, Ben, was them dismissing it until he comes back and asks them about it. Especially with the follow up call from the lady that they're like, okay, well, I guess it was just a weird.
Is the
weird
lady
dude.
John Keel's secretary?
Oh.
Oh.
That's the link. I did not think about that.
Actually, yeah, I think it is, isn't it? Wasn't that like the same chain of events that like this lady shows up at their house and just starts.
There's no proof for that.
Oh no! Wait,
That was
yeah,
just
no,
a-
never mind.
That
Yeah,
was just a thought that I had.
yeah,
Like,
never
what
mind.
if-
Maybe I was thinking that story actually did play in there, but I guess no. I was just remembering.
No, but I
the,
mean, like, what if that
call.
was?
It would be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and so like, there's another couple stories. There's Connie Carpenter. She was one of the first people to see the Mothman. We see like the Men in Black. They weren't just the spooked locals because the police officers were often being admitted to being unsettled by the sudden appearance of these unmarked cars and the men who seemed just off. To many, the Men in Black seemed like government agents sent to silence witnesses, but others weren't sure. Their strange behavior, their awkward speech, and their obsession with ordinary objects, like the ballpoint pen, their pale, almost artificial appearance suggested something else, something not entirely human. Late one evening in 1967, a young couple who had reported a UFO sighting in the TNT area were startled by a knock at their front door. A tall man stood on the porch. He wore the familiar black suit and tie, but something about him was wrong. His skin was deathly pale, and his lips a shade of red that looked painted on, and his eyes seemed to stare without blinking. He introduced himself in a flat, mechanical voice and asked if he could come inside. The couple, unnerved, allowed him in. That's the thing where we, like, let him in. Like, he's like, oh, he can't just walk in. He's got to, like, ask to come inside, you know?
Yeah, he has to ask for permission, yeah,
Mhm.
which is interesting.
Once seated, he began to question them about their sighting, asking for exact details of the lights in the sky. But his manner was unnatural. He spoke in broken phrases, like someone reciting lines they didn't fully understand. When the couple's baby began to cry in the next room, the man stood up abruptly. His face twitched, almost like he was in pain. Without saying another word, he walked to the door, stepped outside, and vanished into the darkness. Later that night, the couple saw a black car idling down the road, headlights off, just barely visible through the trees. In the spring of 1967, one of Mary Hyre's acquaintances, a woman who'd seen the Mothman herself, sat in a local diner having coffee. A man slid into the booth across from her without asking. He was dressed, of course, in a black suit with a thin black tie. His skin looked almost translucent under the fluorescent lights. He leaned forward and said in a voice so soft that she strained to hear, "You saw something that you should not have seen." The woman froze. She tried to ask who he was, but he ignored her. Instead, he warned her not to speak about her encounter again. Then he smiled, or tried to. She said it looked like someone imitating the expression without understanding it. When she looked away for just a moment, the man was gone. No one in the diner had seen him leave. But outside, a black sedan was parked by the curb, idling with its lights off. When she blinked, it too was gone. So, the Men in Black don't play a huge... Yeah, really weird.
Mm-hmm.
The Men in Black don't play a huge role in the Mothman story, but they are significant.
Yeah.
There's actually sightings as recently as 2012 that we have CCTV footage of, but we're not going to go into that too much because I'd like to do a whole episode on the Men in Black later. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But they always seem to show up after people have seen, like, UFOs or unexplained supernatural things, which is just weird. Like, and then they disappear.
And it's not like they're trying to convince them. And this is one, but where he tries to say that you should not have saw that and forget all about it. Don't talk about it. But most of the time they don't do that. And so I don't really get what the connection is between the two things, of the UFO sightings and them showing up. Obviously, they are usually coinciding, but what is the point of them showing up after that?
Well, there's one story that happened over, like, Seattle area where this guy was, like, on his fishing boat with his kid and his dog, and then, like, this craft flies over and, like, some metal stuff falls out. I think it, like, kills the dog and then breaks his kid's arm.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
So he, like, he's telling the story.
That's a weird insurance
And
story
then-
right there.
yeah,
Like,
for
you need
real.
medical insurance. They're like, what happened? You're like,
So, UFO. So he tells, like, his manager when he gets back that night. Only person he told. And then the next day, the Men in Black show up. And they're like, hey, that didn't happen. Like, total hoax. Nothing ever happened there. And then, like, within a couple days, he was like, oh, yeah, the whole thing was a hoax. Like, he actually recounted, like, the dead dog and the kid's broken arm. Like, this is a 15-year-old kid. Like, not like a kid had a broken arm. And they're just like, nah, it was fake.
So what did they do to him? How did they...
exactly. What did they do? And that was the thing with Injured Cold, is the Men in Black came and were like, hey, you got to stop talking to him.
Yeah.
But what he didn't, he kept, like, talking to Injured Cold. To wrap it up, what do we think the Mothman is? Like, there's some speculations, it being just a total hoax, which we kind of ruled out because there are just too many sightings, reliable sightings, for it to be a hoax.
Especially since, like, the book that this dude wrote wasn't published until 2 years
1975.
after it started. And then, like, a whole bunch of other people came forward within that time period. And they're like, oh, yeah, we also saw it. And they all kind of matched up. And, like, obviously, a couple of them are going to be like, oh, you know, they heard a rumor. They heard a story. And now it's like, oh, you know, it's... I saw him now. But the fact that there's so many... like instances and they all happen kind of the same way and they always kind of get followed up in the same place is really weird to just say, oh, it's all just a hoax, none of it ever happened. I don't want to say like too much before I hear your guys' opinions. What do you guys think it is first?
Well, so there's a couple, like we talked about, some people say it was just a sandhill crane, which are pretty big kind of bird. I don't actually think sandhill crane is in that area at all.
I don't know. Let's look keep going.
Either way, definitely does not fit the description of the Mothman.
No.
Other people say it was like a barn owl or something. Not a barn owl, but there was another type of owl, like with a 5-foot wingspan. They could have maybe been close to that size. Still weird.
It's a massive owl. And
because that is a massive owl. And the fact that it doesn't use its wings, because the owls cannot fly 100 miles an hour.
No.
And they definitely don't have glowing red eyes. There's just too many holes in that story, I think,
and they don't hover either. Like,
Yeah.
When you see an owl, it's not like, oh, it's a man with wings. It's
like an owl.
It's like it's just a big oval. That's all I see, and it's 7 feet tall. It's a big owl.
Yeah, that'd be terrifying, even more.
No, yeah. So that's another possible theory. It could be, like we talked about, government experiment gone wrong. Like
A bat high on the uranium.
yeah,
that they're
bat
doing?
somehow made his way from the Philippines to
Radioactive
Pleasant.
bat.
Bat flies through like the uranium plant. And
Yeah.
just gets jacked. It's like boom.
It's like Captain
Yeah.
America.
He's just bench pressing the TNT. He's like.
Yeah, so there's that one. A couple other ones. Alien or some higher intelligence from another planet or something. Also, the last one I think I have. Obviously related to Chief Cornstalk's curse.
Yeah.
The last one could be people speculate he's a harbinger of doom, because there was also supposed sightings before the Chernobyl meltdown, before 9/11, and before the Fukushima meltdown as well.
Tell me, man.
None of
Absolutely
those
jacked bats.
are,
messing
like,
up nuclear
confirmed.
power plants.
All the uranium in their systems.
Yeah.
So, conspiracy, it wasn't airplanes that hit the Twin Towers. It
Oh.
was Mothman. Giant Mothman.
Mothman flies through New York and he's like, I'm done with this.
Boom! Screw you guys. You won't even believe I exist.
Well, there's 2 of them down the drain right there. We're running out of Mothman, guys.
Gur, what's your take? I'll let you start with what you think Mothman is.
It's obviously a cliche to say it's a demon, but I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say it. But that's always a possibility,
I
at
was-
least in part.
I was gonna say it. Because, okay, here's why. Like, I know, like, everybody says it, right? Of like, oh, it's demonic, it's spiritual.
Mhm.
And I think to an extent, people, like, it's easy to take that too far. Where you see
Yeah.
anything that's not Christian, and then it's like, oh, that's demonic. Which I also don't agree with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have the reports of people driving through the forest late at night. Obviously, anxiety is going to be a little bit higher, tension is going to be a little bit higher. That's natural. But he gets out of his car. One, not a good idea. Don't get out of your car. But there's a feeling of just dread. And it's like, it's not just the dread of like, oh, this is a creepy looking forest. Like, we're driving through a, dark rural road at the middle of the night. This is creepy. It's like just an internal sense of dread, even to the point of like getting back in his car and having to go through that, like the fear zone, as like they call it.
Yeah, he was like, I'll just stay.
Yeah,
right
I'll
here."
just stay
Yeah.
here because right there is something that's not right. Like, it kind of correlates to other like spiritual events, like supernatural spiritual events.
Well, and we see that an awful lot with like
Mhm.
Skinwalker Ranch or whatever, where
Yeah.
they see the
Yeah.
orb and then they are overwhelmed by this sense of terror that just doesn't make sense. Like,
It does defy
sure,
logic.
an
Yeah.
orb is like a little creepy, and you might be like, "Oh, that's creepy," but it's
Yeah.
not like terror creepy.
Yeah.
You get a
And
little jittery.
we
Yeah.
see similar things, although there's a whole bunch of different stories and like kind of versions of this story. But if you look at the reports from of course, just a whole bunch of different paranormal, supernatural stories. But the one that I'm thinking of is I forgot the family's name, but it's the Conjuring House like restoring. It's a real
Oh
family.
yeah, we'll do
They
an
move
episode
in.
on that later.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We'll do a future episode and we'll tell you about that. There's a whole bunch of different stories, but obviously they move into this house and it's like something isn't right. It starts out small and they find like little like dust piles and stuff. We'll get into it. But they end up leaving, like they start hearing stuff, they start seeing stuff, and they end up leaving with just this kind of weird just sense of dread. And so then we see the same thing with that, and we see the same thing with like sleep paralysis demons. We see the same thing with Skinwalker Ranch. where
That's
it's-
actually a good point with the sleep paralysis.
yeah, it's the
Mhm.
same.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking
Yeah,
about.
big, dark, kind of shadowy creature, middle of the night, existential sense of dread, even to the point of like sleep paralysis. Like they feel like they can't move, like they're just helpless. This guy also couldn't move, which of course isn't.
There was actually,
Super- yeah.
I think there was one story that I heard from like I think it was might have been Astonishing Legends I was listening to, where like the guy actually did have a sleep paralysis incident with like the Mothman. Like he's in bed, Christian guy, sees like wakes up, can't move, sees big dark figure, glowing red eyes, and starts calling on the name of the Lord, and then slowly the figure leaves and he regains his.
Yeah, so we see that part in the Mothman, of like, okay, lines up with a whole bunch of different stories, existential sense of dread, just like all internal. But then after you get this follow up of the Men in Black a lot of times, which again, like, we won't go a ton into it, but they can only come in your house if you let them. So it could be like a glass of water. It could be, oh hey, you may have inherited a bunch of money. Can I come into your house? It'll only take 40 minutes. But they can only come into your house if you let them, which is another really kind of weird correlation between that and like
typical run of the mill.
Exactly.
Demons.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Run of the mill demons. Run of the mill like like just kind of spiritual, decisions in general. But yeah, we see the same thing of like it's the person that makes the choice, and you have to like invite them in.
If I can play the skeptic here, it's you could chalk that up to them just being really polite people. And that would also sort of go with how they're not very socially apt, and so them
they're just all these like poor homeschoolers who have never been around people before.
Exactly.
And they're like, sorry, can I have a glass of water? Let me wear my
water
thick
bottle's
soled
out.
shoes.
I'll play the skeptic here for a little bit, and yeah, that's
You're like, what's the cord in your ankle? He's like, that is my walkie-talkie, so that my mommy knows where I am at all times. I cannot get lost. My mommy said don't talk to strangers, but they said if you give them water, it's okay. Can I have water, please?
I'm really thirsty.
Yeah. Can I get a glass of milk, too?
Any juice box?
Yes. My friends call me Tiny. What's your name?
Did you have any more to add to that, Gur?
Not a whole lot. No, I agree with Ben with the point of it being the whole point of interacting with the sleep paralysis and all that.
Yeah.
The whole through line of the feeling of dread and the fear zones and all that stuff. That's the most compelling piece of evidence to me, and all of that. Sleep paralysis is the most compelling piece that I think is demonic. Is just always really eerie. And that's just the feeling that gives off.
Yeah.
Every time.
I definitely agree. I think, well, because obviously one of the, and I don't actually know if I mentioned that. I might have totally forgot to mention that. But one of the postulated theories here is that he's like an angel trying to warn them of the Silver Bridge collapse, which we'll talk about in our closing story. But that doesn't seem right.
It doesn't.
We see, because an angel wouldn't cause sleep paralysis.
No.
An angel wouldn't cause an overall sense of dread throughout the whole town.
Well, I mean, they always say fear not.
But they always say fear not. I feel like if it was an angel, it wouldn't just be like, oh, I'm going to chase your car.
Well,
never in the Bible, it's like Joseph started running, and the angel's like, get back here.
Yeah, no, you're not leaving.
Yeah.
Do you have any scars?
Yeah. So yeah, Joseph wakes up from a dream. He's like, angel's like, don't move.
Well, and a lot of the times, especially in the Bible, like, they don't realize they're talking to angels at first.
Yeah.
And I think even, like, was it Paul says, like, we may even have interacted with angels
Hebrews.
and we don't know.
Yeah,
our Hebrews, okay. So Barnabas, no, I'm kidding. We don't know who wrote Hebrews.
But even that, too, though, the key in all of those stories is that the angel appears, like the ones that they did know that it was definitely an angel. Angel appears, and what's the first thing they say? Fear not.
Mm-hmm.
The Mothman, the Men in Black, none of them had this, like, hey, fear not. I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
It's more of just like, I'm going to get you.
Yeah, and it's not like they have, like, this sense of awe, because often with angels we see they have a sense of awe, like they want to worship it or whatnot, and the angel's like, no, you can't worship me. With the Mothman, it's just, like, terror. And, like, that's the difference between, like, fear and awe and just, like, elemental terror, which is not something we ever see associated with, like, angels in the Bible. So I think demon confirmed, in my opinion.
And it really does make sense, since our first instinct would be to be in awe and maybe fear of angels, and the demons just not not comforting them as they are fallen angels.
Mhm.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, it's and even with like the dogs going after him, like the dog
Mhm.
in the cold open we had.
Right.
You know, hunters out there, dog runs after it, dog disappears, gets yoinked by the demon.
Well, and one thing I
Even the
forgot to
dog had
mention
a
about
sense
that.
of like,
Yeah.
this isn't
Right.
right, get him,
Mhm.
kind of thing. It's not just like, oh, there's, you know, which...
Like I said, one thing I forgot to mention is like the dogs getting yoinked. That
Mhm.
totally happened in Skinwalker Ranch too.
Yeah, that too.
Because the dogs got turned into like those
Like, it's
radioactive
the
puddles.
gel
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
That the Mothman then came and ate and then got
Like-
more jacked up.
The demons are just like
yeah.
another
With
interesting
straw shoes.
theory
It's
I
not
heard
weird.
was there was a monster like 8 to 10 months. I forget. I don't think it was the Flatwoods monster,
Mm.
but some monster, a similar area to the Mothman that happened like 9 or 10 months before the Mothman. I'm pretty sure those people were also visited by Men in Black, but it wasn't like quite as defined as the Mothman. It was like an orb. There was like chasing this guy's car. I think the link to that and the Mothman, number one, just by time period, but number two, I think it was the guy's wife got like they looked at the orb, and then like the next day her eyes were all like red and poofy or whatever.
Bloodshot.
Yeah, basically pink eye. I forget what it's called. Basically, welder's conjunctivitis.
Yeah.
Like you get from not just like bright light, but specifically like UV light.
Mm.
And we also see this happen several times with the Mothman. Like a bro's trying to like UV burn you like basilisk style here. The theory that I've heard, and this is the theory from a Christian perspective, a couple of Christian guys. But like not the Flatwoods monster, I don't think, but whatever that monster was like the test run, and then the Mothman was the actual like flat run by the demons, and then
Right.
the Men in Black were like, oh, follow up, let's see what the humans thought of the demons type
Yeah.
thing. That was a theory that I had, which is
Makes sense.
it's not unbelievable. I'm not gonna put that out there. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of funny,
But it's definitely an interesting theory, something
Yeah.
good to think about. So I think definitely demon confirmed, reptilian confirmed, all that good stuff.
Opened in May 1928, the Silver Bridge, spanning 2,200 feet, connected Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to Gallipolis, Ohio. It's always in Ohio. Advertised as a sturdy cantilever design, approximately 10,000 people crossed the bridge on its opening day. A day later, a second bridge, the St. Mary's Bridge, was constructed 75 miles upriver using the same design. Old, tired, and gray, it echoed both the spirit of the townsfolk of Point Pleasant and the weather that cold December day. The bridge, once young and strong, had been built using an older type of engineering that is now obsolete. Made from steel eye bars resembling a bicycle chain, the bridge had only the chain on one side of the span to support the bridge decking, lacking the backup found in most other bridges. Any small fracture on this chain could be fatal. On the cold evening of December 15th, 1967, as locals hurried home from work and last-minute Christmas shopping, tragedy struck. Without warning, at 4:58 p.m., the Silver Bridge fell into the icy water, plunging 60 cars to an icy grave, resulting in the deaths of 46 people. The government taxed it up to a failure in the steel I-beams, 3 millimeters long. However, locals have a different story. On that cold December day, just mere minutes before the bridge gave way, several people saw a tall, gray figure perched on the top of the bridge. The Mothman had done what he came to do. What started 13 months ago as a terrorization of some teenagers now ended in the deadliest bridge collapse in modern history. After this, sightings of the Mothman did not immediately cease, but they did slow down, and the life in Point Pleasant returned to normal, or as normal can be. The event was disastrous, cutting off the economic lifeline to and from the region, and the two cities found themselves linked only by an improvised ferry system. Constructing the new Silver Memorial Bridge took 2 years, but it now completely bypassed Point Pleasant. The once bustling town had been turned grim and gray in the claws of the Mothman. It would eventually recover, but not without a deep scar left by its winged creature.